What's up, everybody? It's me, Johnny, here with some UFC news on the MMArcade channel. By the way, if you missed the community post, there will be a podcast episode this week with Rob. It's just going to be uploaded a little later than normal, so either on Thursday or Friday. Stay tuned for that. However, in the meantime, I do have some pretty big news to tide us all over. In an interview with ESPN, Conor McGregor has confirmed that he will be fighting Michael Chandler this year in the summer. So in today's video, I'll tell you everything that you need to know about this news. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more news videos from myself on the channel, please like and subscribe if you're new. But let's get into it. Again, in an interview with ESPN, Conor McGregor was asked when he thinks he'll return to the UFC octagon, and this is what he had to say. We got confirmation a few days ago that it's all systems go and that Notorious will be returning in the UFC octagon this summer. Now, mind you, he didn't mention a specific date. Is it going to be International Fight Week, UFC 303, or UFC 306, right? He just said loosely it's going to be in the summer. He didn't even say if it was going to be the US summer. Could be talking about Australia, probably not. But it's going to be in the summer. It is good to hear him say that. However, I do want to say, we have been here before, all right? We have absolutely been here before. And until the UFC or Dana White himself says that this fight is officially happening, I'm not going to believe it, right? I want to see Dana White on his Instagram uploading one of his regular videos saying that, yes, Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler are actually fighting. It is good to see Conor say this. It's good to see Michael Chandler say this, or at least hint at it on his Twitter and everything else. But until it's actually officially announced, it's not official, and I'm not going to believe it, right? But hypothetically, let's say it is going to be taking place in the summer. What's going to be happening? What else did Conor McGregor say in this interview? So he did actually refer to his previous video that he uploaded in January of this year. I don't know if you remember it, but that's the one where he was having a drink of wine. And he was kind of joking, saying, yeah, I'm going to be fighting Michael Chandler. I believe he said at 185 pounds at middleweight, which is just crazy. Could you imagine Conor and Chandler fighting at middleweight at, International Fight Week or UFC 306 or whatever it might be? That's insane to me. I could not imagine them fighting at middleweight. And he essentially said in this interview, he was just joking around. He was having a bit of a laugh. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously. In fact, he actually said that he hasn't weighed himself since an official UFC event all the way back. It would have been years ago, right, when he fought Dustin Poirier. He said he hasn't weighed himself, which I find very hard to believe, but that's what he says. I'm going to take him at face value. And then he said he's going to see where he's at when it comes to the weight. So we don't know whether it's definitely going to be lower than middleweight, right? But how much lower than middleweight, that is yet to be seen or confirmed. But then by the end of the interview, he does say, yes, it's great news. It's all systems go. He's got the call. It's a thumbs up. Everything is sweet, right? So let's assume that this is official, as it can be without the UFC saying it themselves. Let's assume this is actually going to be happening. Which event is it going to be taking place at? What are the likely options? And I kind of hinted at it before. I see there being two big options if it's going to be taking place in the US summer. First of all, International Fight Week at UFC 303. I think that's the best option because it's the soonest, mind you. And also as well, it's going to be a pretty big week. During International Fight Week, you want to have some big names, and who else is bigger than Conor McGregor? Especially this fight has been hyped up for ages since The Ultimate Fighter. I think that's the best option, and a lot of people are speculating it will be at UFC 303, right? So that's the first option. The second option to me is UFC 306, right? Which is going to be on September 14 at Las Vegas at the Sphere. And they've been talking about holding an event at the Sphere ever since it opened. That's going to be huge as well. The only downside with this one is that it's a little bit later than normal. It's still in the summer, mind you, but it's going to be on September 14. So do we really want to wait another few months to see Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler fight? Especially because Conor himself said he'd like to fight Michael Chandler at UFC 303 in June, and then fight again at 306 during International Fight Week against Nate Diaz. He actually wants to run it back with him and do the trilogy. They've talked about that for a while. That's going to be a pretty big fight if it's actually signed. But I will say, I don't want to see that fight. Nate is now 38, right? Love the guy, love the fighter to death, but he's 38 now. He hasn't fought since 2022, specifically in September. I think that is done and dusted. Nate probably shouldn't fight in the UFC again. And I'd be very surprised if Conor McGregor can turn around that quickly. From not fighting for how long he hasn't fought for, years now, to then fighting at UFC 303 and then turning around a few months later at 306. I find that very, very tough to believe. He could do it, especially if he wins and it's a quick victory. Maybe he knocks Chandler out. but I just don't see the turnaround being that quickly. Though it could be, because he is getting a little bit older, and he does say he only has 2 fights left on his contract. So you want him to fight as much as possible, especially if the UFC want to re-sign him again to get even more fights out of him while he's still, 35 and not, too old at the moment. He's not 37 or 38. Michael Chandler is 37, which is crazy to me. But let's see if they sign him to a new deal. They want to get that done as soon as possible, is my understanding. And he also said this, he really does want to sign a new deal with the UFC. He said in a previous interview, do we sign a new deal? Do I go? Am I a free agent? I love the UFC dearly. My heart is in the UFC. My catalog, my life. I love everyone in the company and all the fighters and all the events and all the shows and cards. I wish to continue this. How that looks, I have no clue. So I really do want Conor McGregor to be signed, mind you. And I do want to talk about this now. It will be good to see Conor McGregor back. I know we've been talking about this for ages, right? And it's getting a little bit drawn out or whatever, but Conor McGregor is still a big name. He is the biggest name in the UFC. And I want to see the dude fight. He's an exciting fighter. All the knockouts and the crazy fights that he's had, especially with Nate Diaz. Who doesn't want to see him fight again? I'm not saying that he should be fighting for the title, even if he beats Chandler, right? But he should be headlining some of these big cards, especially while he is only 35 and he can still fight and is showing a willingness to fight. So hopefully he can come back. And as well, I want to see how he does come back ever since he lost to Dustin Poirier the second time where he had that crazy freak leg injury, right? I want to see how he does. Does Conor McGregor still have it? Is he still a top-class martial artist, especially in that division? Who knows? I want to see it, so that's going to be good to see. But plus as well, I referenced this, but Michael Chandler is 37. This guy is wasting away the prime years of his life as a fighter. He hasn't fought for well over a year now. I want to see Chandler return. I want to see him fight again. I don't believe Michael Chandler is ever going to be able to have another run to the title in that division, right? You have Dustin Poirier, you have Justin Gaethje, and you have Charles Oliveira, right? All ahead of him, and all who have beaten him before, right? We have Charles about to fight Arman Tsarukyan. We have Justin Gaethje. He was in the conversation. Islam wanted to fight Justin and then didn't get made because he's going to be fighting Max Holloway next. And then Dustin Poirier just beat Benoit Saint-Denis, and Islam has said that, yeah, it's probably going to have to be Dustin next if Justin can't fight me soon. I think he said he wanted to fight him in June. So is Michael Chandler, even if he wins the next 3 fights, is he really going to be in the conversation when those 3 guys are right there? I really doubt it, but that doesn't mean he can't fight. That doesn't mean he can't have good fights in that division against the Conor McGregor, against who else? Like, let's say whoever loses between Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan, and Michael Chandler does happen to beat Conor McGregor, that could be a good fight to make. Like, who really knows? So it would be good to see. Plus as well, I just want to see them fight. They've been talking about this for years since The Ultimate Fighter. It'll be good to see some sort of resolution from everything that was built up during The Ultimate Fighter. I'm sure they would have liked to have had that fight happen sooner after that show ended, or at least towards the end. That's typically the idea. But I just want to see these guys fight. They've been jabbing each other here and there. Again, Michael Chandler went on to WWE Raw, which was really cool, trying to hype up the fight. I just want to see it finally happen. So let me know what you all think in the comments below. What do you think about what Conor McGregor said? Do you think it's actually going to be happening? Do you think it's going to be a good fight between the two? Who do you think is going to win? If I was to give an early prediction right now, it's really hard to say because when Conor McGregor did return against Dustin Poirier, I thought Conor was going to win, and then Dustin Poirier did what he did right. He always does it. He's always the underdog and he always pulls it out. But when it comes to Michael Chandler, I don't really know. The only thing that gets me a little bit worried about Conor McGregor is that he's living the high life now, right? He's got a bunch of money. I don't know. He says he has been training. He's been in a fight camp, but he's had a pretty significant leg injury. I don't know how he's going to go back. Like, if this was prime Conor and prime Michael Chandler, of course I'd pick Conor. I'm a little bit uncertain. I am leaning more towards Conor McGregor right now. But I have to see some footage of them fighting and sparring, so let's see what happens. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, this has been Johnny. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the podcast episode later this week.